The Heroes of Kaskaria, a fantasy game by Haba. The publisher labels it as a beginner's tactical fantasy adventure. We have adventure, we have fantasy. As for tactical, maybe they use the word in a different sense from the one that I'm used to attached to that word, but I don't see much tactical here. In the game, players will control pairs of creatures. Each player has two creatures. This sort of like griffin kind of creature that jumps from rock to rock, and this sort of like big cat that moves on this path. So each player has those two of their own color. The game can be played by up to 4 players. And the point is to reach this artifact here that has been stolen by the evil trolls. Boo, boo, down with the trolls. So you have to get there, but you have to get there before other people do so that you get more glory. In the game, to move and to perform actions, the players will use these cards here that represent the gold, that represent the 2 animals that the heroes are riding, the big cat and the scaly griffin. Here it is. And also there is another card that gives you extra cards. These are really the only 4 cards that you have in the game. What differentiates them, as you may have noticed, is the color. And nothing else. There is no other difference in the cards but the color. And so for that reason, the game is not colorblind friendly. In 2016, so many games now take that into account. So many companies who give different colors, which for those who can see colors is the most intuitive, visceral thing that you have to differentiate cards. But also here, you had these frames. These frames could have been different with different shapes so that the colorblind can also play them. Also, if you see colors well, there's still gonna be a little bit of trouble because, as you can see, even cards of the same color, they have slightly different nuances. The cards with the jewels, or with the gold, as you say, are usually a little lighter than the cards with the scaly ones. So as you can see, these 2 cards do not look exactly the same, but they really are. They do belong to the same color. And the same can be said for the types of colors. Well, the colors are not that different from one another, or at least some of them are not so different from one another. These are reasonably different, but again, I think there could have been a better range. And then these 2 cards, I kid you not, are of the same color. So the only way to tell a color really is to ignore everything else and to look at the symbol. And so as you can see, the production here, I'm rambling a little bit, but as you can see, colors are the key element here. Differentiating the cards to form sets is the key element in the game. So I'm rambling a little bit, but it's just that the production of these cards should have received a little more attention, in my very humble opinion. How does the game work? You will have a hand of 5 cards at the beginning, and when it is your turn, you can do one of 2 things. You can draw a card, either from the 3 available here, and if you do so, the card is immediately replaced, or you can draw it from the deck. So you draw a card, or you play cards. To play cards, you need to have sets of at least 2 cards of the same color. So if I had these 3 cards here, I can play them as a set. You cannot play individual cards. So at least 2, but you can go up to bigger numbers. When you play your cards, super simple. This card here allows you to draw 2 cards from any available source. This one allows you to move your scaly guy by 1 space, by 1 rock. There, moving on the waterfalls. Gold allows you to grab a gold. It's pretty much self-explanatory. And I think you guessed it. The big cat allows you to move your own guy. Also, the color of the card that you use to move does not have to match your own color. With this one, I can move my griffin no matter the color that I have. So the colors of the cards are not related to the colors of the things that you find here. This is the game, really. It's simple as that. So players will race to reach the talisman there, the Mysterious Amulet. When somebody does so, when somebody reaches that space, no matter from which track, the player grabs this, which is worth 2 gold, as you can see here. At that point, players will probably have collected some gold. They will have their own personal reserve, and the player that grabbed the artifact adds that to their pool. Also, then players will score extra points because at the end, it looks like it should be a cooperative game thematically. We're all heroes and try to get there, but at the end we get rewards, so we get points. Like this was a race game, so in truth it is a race game actually. And the rewards, or should I say the awards, at the end of the game is 7 golds for the first player on a track, 4 golds for the second, 3 golds, 1 gold for the third, and 0 gold for the fourth. And you score each track individually. So basically, players will get some gold when this track is scored, and then some gold when this track is scored. So ideally, you want to be ahead as close as possible to the center on both tracks. Otherwise, you may score a lot on one track, but then nothing on the other one. Is still not good. It's still not as good as being in a good position on both tracks. And this is how the game works. You grab the gold that you receive from this reward here, you add it to your personal pile, and at that point, the player with the most gold is the winner of the game. Heroes of Kaskaria, as simple as that. Clearly a game for children, but also actually a game that could be, I guess, played by adults only, if they're looking for a very casual, very simple game. It reminds me a little bit of Lost Cities, just in a simplified version, because in Lost Cities you have stricter restrictions as to the cards that you can play, but you still have the idea that you're playing cards within certain boundaries, within certain restrictions, and those cards allow you to move and to go and grab some important stuff that scores you points. I do not know if a group of adults only, would really enjoy it. Again, it can be, if you're really looking for a light divertissement, but it is good actually for families, in the sense there are children games that you're playing with your kids and you're just biting the bullet and sitting through those, enjoying the joy that the game gives to your children, but that's pretty much it. This is not one such game. I played it with my daughter, and actually also played it with some friends of my daughter's, and we enjoyed it, and I enjoyed playing it. Again, I do not know that I will pull it from the shelf and play it when only my adult friends are over, but if I'm playing a game with my daughters, this is one that I actually enjoyed quite a bit. As a family game, one that I sit down with my daughters to play, I find it quite enjoyable. The space of decision clearly is very limited, but it is still teaching something to the kids, because if you get a set of 2 and you play it, you're spending, of course, a turn just to play those. So it is much more efficient if you have a larger set of cards and you play them all at once. So the kids have to learn to be patient, have to learn to maximize their resources so they do not waste too much time. But at the same time, it is still, light enough if they do want to play 2 cards every time that they have to. They're happy to do so. It's not like it's a huge mistake that forces them to lose the game. They stay behind, etc., etc. They are not as effective as they otherwise could, but they still have fun moving these animals. The quality of the components is really good, but as I said, for the color coding of the cards, but these pieces here, these game pieces are really high quality, really fun from the tactile point of view, visual point of view, really thematic, really fun to play with. And the board looks really great. So the components also are quite pleasant with that. Again, small complaint there. Also the gold. The gold looks a little old and rusty. I know all gold doesn't rust. Don't be pedantic. It just looks like, I don't know, as for being gold, looks a little lackluster. Maybe if they had that gems and like little crystal thing, the game would have been more colorful and attractive. Other than that, this is a small thing. Gameplay, my daughters like it. My daughters are 4 and 6 right now, and even the 4-year-old can play it, even the 4-year-old can understand it, and the 6-year-old also can play it, understanding it. She enjoys it even more. Simple decisions, but interesting one with some tension and some thrilling elements due to the fact that it is ultimately a race. There are also some advanced rules that will add a little more complexity, but mainly will add incentives for the players to create good sets before they play them. An optional rule that I like very much is that if you have 2 cats that you're playing in a set, you get to move by 3 spaces instead of 2 spaces as you usually would. Usually you move by 1 space for each card representing the character that you're riding to reach the center. So that you're having 2 cats for 3, again, it's an incentive in waiting until you have a good set. Very simple game that can introduce the idea of building sets to your kids that has a nice, pleasant fantasy theme. You get the thing back, so it's, good versus evil, but you don't have to slay anything. It still feels very peaceful and so very children friendly. Overall, the Heroes of Kaskaria is a family game that, as a family game, I find quite pleasant and effective. A game that I enjoy playing with my daughters, and I'm sure I will play in the future because they enjoy this, so I'm sure that they will ask me to play it more. And when they ask me, well, I will not feel like, that game again. No, I feel like, Heroes of Kaskaria. It's not King of Tokyo, but it's still a pretty good game.